There's no cure for racing. You're not even going broke. The only cure for racing is the end of our lives, not the end of our career.
By far the best series I've ever raced in, dollar for dollar. I can race all year on a quarter what it would cost me to run anything else.
Here you can beat it out or make a new one and be back the next week. And it's really an affordable series. I really like it.
It's nice to come back, and have the car slide around and, put it back in the driver's hands. I like that.
Hey guys, Olivia Pritchett coming at you from Lonesome Pine Raceway. Now remember, for the 2017 season, the Super Cup Stock Car Series has a Northern Division Championship, a Southern Division Championship, and an overall championship. And tonight's race marks the beginning of the battle for the championship for the Southern Division. Now for overall points, Jim Crabtree is currently first, Kevin Cromer is currently second. Both these drivers have ran very well at this track, but it's been nearly a decade since they last raced here. They are both long overdue for their first win this season, and they've only got 50 laps to make it happen.
Thank you, Olivia. Welcome to Lonesome Pine Raceway, just outside of Coburn, Virginia, one of the oldest and finest facilities for short track racing in this part of the country. We are excited to see a green flag. I'm Stephen Cox, along with Olivia Pritchett. We just heard from her, and she will be covering pit road for us for the rest of the afternoon. And boy, do we have a great race coming up for both North and South points. Now, here's the starting lineup, a name you've heard so many times. Famous racer Brad Teague in the number 12, sitting on the inside of row 1, alongside the points leader, Jimmy Crabtree Jr. in the 63. Mike Kurkowski inside row 2 in the number 1 car. Harvey Harrison had to go to a backup car, actually owned by Brandon Harrison, outside row 2. We'll talk about that as the night goes on. Bob Schacht in the 75. Brent Nelson won twice at Jennerstown. He's outside row 3, with Brian Harrison and Ben Ebling making up row 4. Ben actually won this race here at Lonesome Pine last year. Row 5 is the familiar 66 of Larry Wilcox returning to action. Ron Langdon has already scored a podium earlier this year. Row 6 is Kevin Cromer in the 77 alongside Bill Ashton, who also posted a win at Jennerstown last season. Row number 7, it's the 42 of J.P. Crabtree. Mike Potter is outside row 7 in the number 99 car. The Midvale winner from the very first outing this year, Trent Gosser, is inside row 8 alongside the 07 car of Brian Kaltreiter. And making his own way in the final row is Jason Shue in the number 3. That's the entire starting grid as they come out of turn number 4. Brad Teague in the white number 12 alongside the 63 of Jimmy Crabtree. And we are racing at Lonesome Pine. Crabtree on the high side grabs the early lead. And the 12 of Brad Teague looks to be very loose. That's the second time he's come off a corner and had the back end get away from him. So they're undoubtedly setting that car up very loose, trying to make sure that the tire pressures come up later in the evening as the sun sets and that car gets faster and faster. But right now, the 63 is clearly the class of the field. That's Jimmy Crabtree Jr. As they come out of turn 4, you'll see there's a good gap now that's opening up between first and second place. We've also got several good battles a little further back in the field. We want to keep an eye on the number 44, that beautiful brand new blue and yellow car of Ben Ebling. And Olivia had a chance to talk to Ben about an amazing run he had here last season.
So many firsts, so many good memories from that race with Mike, and to come away from the track last year with a win in my first race, first time with Super Cup, was just an amazing experience for me.
So this is a different car you're in?
This is a different car. The first time it's been on the track is today, about an hour ago. We've got an oil leak, we've got a lot of push. So we're just trying to work some issues out in it right now. But Mike's actually in the car we won with last year, and we brought a different car this year.
Super Cup, one of the few places you can go to a short track and compete against guys with NASCAR experience like Bob Schacht and Brad Teague. Brad is going backwards right now. We'll find out why when we come back to Lonesome Pine. Super Cup Stock Car Racing brought to you by Performance Fiberglass Products and by G-Force Racing Gear, your home for quality, innovation, and value. Well, there's my team. Larry Berg on the left, Cody Robaugh on the right, seen here last year when we competed in this race against the 63 of Jimmy Crabtree Jr., who is leading this year and leading comfortably. In fact, I raced Jimmy probably 15, 20 years ago at Indiana's Salem Speedway in open wheel modifieds, and he was fast then, too. He has had difficulty this year, though, trying to get that car to turn. Now, he's been on the podium almost every single night, putting up very good numbers. He's the points leader, but he's still not happy with the race car.
So far in practice, we've not been real good. At least the car doesn't feel good. So hopefully, we get it better before the race starts.
What is it that's making the track difficult?
Same thing as everywhere I've been. I can't get the car to turn in the middle. If I could get the car to turn, we'd be good. It's just right in the middle. It's struggling getting the car to turn. So still got to do some more work to it.
Well, I hope he doesn't get it straightened out because it'll blow away the rest of the field. He's quick enough as it is, and he's still not happy with the car. That's the 63 of Jimmy Crabtree Jr. And we're starting to see the field thin out just a little bit. Bob Schacht in the red car comes past right now in second place, followed by Harvey Harrison in the black car in the 12 of Brad Teague. We spoke of him in the previous segment. Brad is actually running pretty well. He's in fourth place and kind of hanging on with a very loose race car right now as we see Brad Teague and Brian Harrison and the 80 of Brent Nelson all fighting over the same stretch of racetrack. Now look up on the high side. I think that's Larry Wilcox in the white 66 slowing down, and that is a shame because he had a really nice run going. Larry's worked on that car. He's got a lot of laps at this racetrack, so it's a shame to see him slowing down. Now there's the 63 back up front, and you see the 66 of Larry Wilcox drop to the inside. Now here's why that's important. Everybody else in the field right now is waiting for a yellow for the field to bunch up, but if the 66 enters the backside of the pits, you won't see a yellow. Now it looks like we have another car slowing. That's another white car. That is the 15 being narrowly missed there. That is the 15 of Brian Harrison. He will slow down. Let's see if he can make it to the backstretch because everybody else in the field right now begging for a yellow because their tire temperatures are up, their brakes are warm, and they're ready to go racing. And there comes our caution. Brian must not have made it all the way. In fact, there he sits down toward turn 1 at the end of pit road. So Brian Harrison having problems, but let's take a moment right now and check in with Olivia, who's standing by with Larry Wilcox.
Larry, I'm sorry we hate to see you out so soon. What's going on?
I lost oil pressure. I ain't sure what happened. I have to check it.
All right, come back next time.
Thank you.
Well, that's a shame. Larry had a nice run going, but the 15 has now been pushed onto pit row of Harrison Motorsports, and Brian is talking with his crew chief to see if they can get that car refired. We have the engine fired on it again, and it looks to me like he's going to go back in the fray, probably down a lap, but he'll rejoin the field, and we'll try to track his story and find out what happened with the 15 of Brian Harrison in a few minutes. But here's the important thing. As we go back to green, the field is now all bunched back up, and finally, everybody has a shot here at the 63 and the 75 of Jimmy Crabtree Jr. and Bob Schacht, who had pretty much checked out on the field. So with the tire temperatures up, with the brakes being warm, with everything coming up to temperature, let's see if anybody's handling has changed on their car to give them a legitimate shot at the 63. Back down to pit road. What happened to the 15?
The car's just misfiring. It's not running the way it should, and he's just for safety, he's going to watch it. It's not safe for him to be out there, and not pay attention. He'd rather fall back a lap, pay attention to the car, know what's going on with it, than to get out there and cause an accident.
So that'll end Brian Harrison's hunt for the win here at Lonesome Pine. But in the meantime, Jim Crabtree Jr., Bob Schacht, Brent Nelson, Harvey Harrison, Brad Teague, they've all got a great opportunity to win here tonight. More in just a moment. Super Cup Stock Car Racing is brought to you by United Tire and Service, Drive United, and by Stable 360 Oil Stabilizer. Prevent corrosion above and below the oil line. Well, the 63 has been the class of the field all day long, but he is now coming under very heavy fire from the 75. That's Jimmy Crabtree Jr., followed by Bob Schacht in the battle for the lead here at Lonesome Pine Raceway as we come up to the halfway point. And for the first time, Schacht gets a nose under him, and we've got a real battle on our hands here. It looks as if the 75 is a little bit quicker and has a better balance on that race car when they're making the transition from yellow flags under caution back to green flag like we just saw a few moments ago. So he may have a quicker car here. The question is whose car is faster over the long haul if we do indeed get a long green flag segment now like we did in the first quarter of the race. Schacht is looking for any improvement he can find over his last outing.
Well, in the first 50 lap, we wound up finishing fifth, and the car just it wasn't that good. And then we ran the second one, and I think we ran 30 laps or something, you know, under the green and stuff. Well, then they had a wreck, and I was kind of like in the middle of it. So when I slowed down and I put it in third gear to kind of get out of there and stuff, it started wheel hopping real bad, and then it broke the drive shaft.
What kind of finish would you be happy with?
Anything less than winning, I'm sorry, I'd be unhappy.
Well, once you've done this as long as Bob Schacht has, that's pretty much your attitude, and he is in second place right now to the 63 of Jimmy Crabtree Jr. In third place is the 80 of Brent Nelson, who's really had a pretty good day. Not a quiet day, but a good day so far for Brent Nelson. Now let's jump back to the battle for fifth, sixth position and go on board with the G-Force Racing Gear camera and Brad Teague of Potter Racing. He's got tons and tons of laps here, going back some 30, 40 years.
I ran up here in the old late model sportsman days in 72 to 76, and I was track champion up here in 75. I have run about 250 Xfinity Series races and about 35 truck races and about 50 cup races.
So if you want to run with the big boys and you want to do it affordably, be sure and come out and get behind the wheel of a Super Cup stock car. Brad Teague and Ben Ebling struggling right now over fifth position. Ebling was the winner here last year, and now we've got a new guy coming into the mix. You see the stars and stripes right behind him, that red, white, and blue car. That belongs to J.P. Crabtree as you're on board with the stable onboard camera right now of the 44 Ben Ebling. That's turning into a great three-way battle. Now, I don't have near as many laps at this track as some guys have, but it seems to me that the upper groove of this track comes in late in the race, and that's a lot of what we're seeing right now as we're going 2 and sometimes 3 wide, and the low groove is surprisingly not always the fastest as it is on most other short tracks. That's the 42 of J.P. Crabtree again going 3 wide out of turn number 4. That is the battle for 5th, 6th, and 7th position right now. Crabtree making a really good run of it, but the 12 of Brad Teague seems to get the best bite on the corners when he's running really high. He's up a full 3 grooves high in turn numbers 3 and 4. Let's try and diagnose what's going on with the 12 car of Brad Teague. As he comes off turn 2 right here, they're going down the backstretch, and we're hearing now that they may have brake problems on that car as well, but he's running up really high in turn 3. He's pushing in, and the car seems to snap and become very loose coming off the corners, and boy, he must have big problems because we jump back on board with the stable camera of the 44 Ben Ebling, and we see the 12 car of Brad Teague just disappear back in the distance. He is losing a lot of time right now. Meanwhile, the 35 and the 44 both moving forward in the field and looking very solid. Your top 5 still Jimmy Crabtree Jr. out front, Bob Schacht, Brent Nelson in 3rd. The defending champion Harvey Harrison in 4th, and J.P. Crabtree is now in the top 5. The Super Cup Stock Car Series is brought to you by Racing Electronics and by G-Force Racing Gear, your home for quality, innovation, and value. We are running out of laps at Lonesome Pine Raceway in Coburn, Virginia, and we have seen an amazing run up front so far by the 63 of Jimmy Crabtree Jr., leading the North Series points in the Super Cup Series and leading the overall points for the national championship that we'll talk about as the evening goes on. He is in first place, having just worked his way around the lapped car of Ron Langdon in the 90, and behind him by a pretty good margin now, probably 8 to 10 car lengths. We're getting a look at the gap between the 63 and the 75 of Bob Schacht. The real question here is whether anybody has any opportunity to catch Jimmy Crabtree in the national championship.
It's come down so far to two drivers that have yet to win this year, and I know they're both very hungry to get back into victory lane. Jimmy Crabtree Jr. leads the point standings. He's finished runner-up 3 times this year already. Then you have Kevin Cromer sitting 40 points back in second. He went all of last year without winning, so he's got his luck turned around, and he's looking for the win as well.
Well, Jimmy is sitting pretty out front right now in that 63 car. He's complained really to both Olivia Pritchett on pit row and to me at several other races that he just couldn't get his car to turn properly in the center of the corner. But he certainly seems to have things figured out running the high line here at Lonesome Pine Raceway tonight. And there again is a look at the big gap between him and the 75 car of Bob Schacht. It's almost a full straightaway in length now, and it looks like the longer green flag we have going, the more of a lead he gets and the better his car seems to work. Now let's jump on board with the stable crew and Ben Ebling of Potter Racing. The 44 car has been not necessarily a threat to win, but in the thick of things, coming up from about 6th or 7th position and now fighting for 5th. And what a great battle that is as they pass the 71 car of Trent Gosser. That's the 44, Ben Ebling on the high side. The 42 of J.P. Crabtree is on the low side. And this is very interesting because J.P. Crabtree did not qualify as well as he wanted to. He hasn't run all day long. He's not had the car that he felt he needed to win, but now he seems to have the only car in the field that I've seen able to run in the top 5 and run there quickly.
The year's been kind of up and down. We started off pretty good at Midvale. Had to come from the back because I messed up in qualifying, but had a pretty good finish there. I think we finished 6th or 5th and then a 3rd place, which was really good. And then we went to Jennerstown and the car just wasn't right and we were running on old tires, so hoping that with the new tires for tonight, it'll help us.
And you're 3rd in points for the overall championship. Do you think you can maintain and work your way up?
I hope we can maintain for one, and then hopefully keep going and get behind Dad. It's going to be tough. There's a lot of good cars, and tonight's the first South race, so I'm running for South points as well. So that's also a lot of weight on my shoulders because you're going to have to beat Harvey and all the other South guys. So it's going to be a good night.
And JP's dad, of course, is Jimmy Crabtree, who is your current leader. But we have a significant occurrence going on in the top 5 for the South Division points. That's the 51 of Harvey Harrison, who's been passed by Ben Ebling. And also the 42 of JP Crabtree is trying to get past Harvey Harrison, and he makes it stick. And that is big for the Southern Points crown. JP has a real opportunity to win the South. Now, we don't know whether or not he can chase down his dad for the overall national title, but that's certainly big for the Southern crown in the Super Cup Stock Cars Series. Harvey Harrison is the defending series champion from last year and some of JP's top competition that he just put in his rearview mirror here at Lonesome Pine Raceway. JP still looks to me to have one of the few cars in the field that is really working well on the bottom of this racetrack. He's worked his way into the top 5 now. Jim Crabtree Jr. still out front, followed by Schacht, Nelson, and Ebling. And we'll come back for the finish of this Twin 50 when we return to Coburn, Virginia. Super Cup Stock Car Racing is brought to you by Lincoln Welders and by 303 Products, keeping your car looking new longer. Just a handful of laps remain now at the Extreme Awards and Personalization Patrick Miller Photography Twin 50s here at Lonesome Pine Raceway. The 63 has absolutely been dominant all night long, but this is the point where you're really working very closely with your spotter, because while you're leading the race, the last thing you want to do is get caught up in somebody else's accident or somebody else's mess. So the 63 will continue to work his way through traffic. In fact, I believe he has the black 51 of Harvey Harrison in front of him. And that means the 63 of Jim Crabtree Jr. is passing his way at least up through 6th position and putting a lot of laps on guys in this field. So now you talk to your spotter and you say, hey, how many laps are left? How much longer is this race going to go on? You start listening to everything in the car and you start managing the systems of the car. You look and see if you're going to be overheating. You make sure that the brakes are not getting too hot. The white flag out right now for the 63 of Crabtree Jr. as he goes into turn number 1, and you just want to hit your marks. Your spotter is saying, look, you've got this thing won if you don't blow it. Sit back and relax. And Jimmy Crabtree Jr. has done this so many times it should be no problem for him as he scores his first win of the year in the Super Cup Stock Car Series at Lonesome Pine Raceway tonight. Boy, what a dominant run. You know, we saw just a little bit of Bob Schacht coming on in the middle of the race to get his nose underneath the 63 a time or two, but it just really wasn't enough. Other than that, the 63 car dominated all night long. Let's talk to our winner.
Jim, fantastic job. After being the bridesmaid, as you said, all season, this has been a long time coming to you, hasn't it?
Oh, yeah. The car was getting better. We still got a little work to do on it before the next race, but it's definitely a lot better than it was in practice. You know, I just kept working on it. I didn't quit until time to, to go racing for the feature there. So the changes we made helped. So I'm just glad to be here finally.
Well, you made it look effortless to hold first. What does this mean to you?
That was pretty good. I like to have me a straightaway lead, no pressure. So, and all the lap cars did a good job getting out of the way. So that's kind of like.
Well, awesome job, and come back and do it again.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Time for the trophy shot, and the trophies are provided by Extreme Awards and Personalization. They're big, they're nice, they're keepers, and it's something that you'll be proud of. Time for us now to check in with second place.
All right, Bob Schacht, now you told me if you don't get first place, you're not happy.
I'm not happy. We're going to work on it, see if we can't make it better. I mean, he was right there. He didn't get away from us, so we're going to try and change a few things and see if we can't make it a little more competitive.
Well, I was going to say you were fast, but what kept you from first?
The biggest thing is the gear is just killing me. I have way too much gear compared to him, and he would just beat me like 4 or 5 car lengths into the corner. And, I mean, it's what it is. So we're going to work on the chassis some more and see if we can't speed it up.
All right, well, fix it up and get him.
We're going to go get him. Thanks.
All right, Brent, third place isn't a win, but what does this mean for points?
Well, this will help us in the points. Midville really killed us, and we're trying to gain any points that we can to try to get back up and stay in the top 5. Actually, we want to be in the top 1, 2, or 3, and we finished third in this race here, and we're going to go back and work on the car and try to free it up and see what we can do. Try to advance our position.
But you were fast, weren't you? You moved up several positions?
Yeah, we were fast, but the longer we went, the car just kept getting tighter and tighter. But we're just going to free that up and see what we can do the second half.
Well, that was a lot of fun. Thank you so much for being with us. Jim Crabtree Jr. once again in first place. Bob Schacht in second. Brent Nelson rounds out the top 3. Also, Harvey Harrison. You see him dropping all the way down to 7th position. That'll hurt him in the Southern points. Jason Shue up to 13th, followed by Brad Teagan 14th, along with Colt Ryder, Harrison Wilcox, and Brandon Harrison, rounding out the field in the number 5 car in 18th position. Thank you so much for joining us. For Olivia Pritchett, I'm Stephen Cox. Good night, everybody.